In the coming weeks, the independent special rapporteur will be responsible for informing the work of NSIRA and NSICOP and any other existing processes like those by Elections Canada, and to identify any gaps in our system. The independent special rapporteur will make public recommendations which could include a formal inquiry or some other independent review process.
We've told them we don't think there's why do we need a special rapporteur? What does this rapporteur even do? It sounds like a fake job. We need someone who actually has a real work plan. And what we've said is we need an independent and open investigation headed by someone approved by all parties in the House of Commons, not another liberal establishment Ottawa insider.
Tom Mulcair is brought to you by Guaranteed Industries. For the best Lennox home comfort systems out there, call Guaranteed Industries at 514-342-3400, a Lennox Premier dealer. Well, I got to give it to you, Tom. You called it yesterday. You said it wouldn't be a full-on inquiry, but something that would maybe get us there. So kudos to you.
Well, thanks, but it's also something that buys a few weeks peace and quiet for Trudeau because he gets to answer, well, no, I've got to use it in the pronunciation of Poilievre. He's got his rapporteur. Now, you and I both know that Pierre Poilievre actually knows how to speak French. But last night when I was on the air with our colleagues, iHeartRadio in Toronto and News Talk 1010, I was on with Jim Richards. And guess what? Well, he kept calling it the rapporteur. What is this? You're from Quebec. What's a rapporteur? And so Poilievre was not going to get caught dead speaking into a microphone in English, to everybody in his riding in Ontario or his old home of Alberta saying rapporteur. So he goes rapporteur, and he was actually quite funny. He was on about, it must come with a uniform or something. Now, this is not the smartest thing that Trudeau has ever done, I have to say, but it has Privy Council office written all over it. This is a maneuver very similar to what was done by Mulroney. He gets the Oliphant report, by Harper after he gets the Oliphant report on Mulroney and the whole thing. And they gave it to the most sterling character you could come up with, David Johnston, who had, former head of McGill, former head of Queen's. I mean, just the guy, a lifetime of public service, no known political affiliation. He had, for heaven's sake, had handled the debates back in the day, decades ago, between the federal parties. So he's just highly regarded. They gave it to him. He came up with a report, and lo and behold, the thing settled down a little bit after the David Johnston report. This is what Trudeau is praying for, but it ain't going to happen because he says it's going to be independent. But he already said that the three civil servants who wrote the first panel report, they were independent, but they were his employees. And then they said that the guy who reviewed their work, Morris Rosenberg, that he was independent. But the problem is, of course, he headed up the Trudeau Foundation. So now he's promising this time he's got it figured out. They're really, really going to be finding somebody independent. I'm hearing the name Louise Arbour. That would make some sense because she's got, an absolutely sterling reputation, a lifetime of public service and all the other things that we just talked about. Would she accept it? Who knows? The way Trudeau was talking yesterday, I do know him. Like, I know his body language. I've debated him any number of times. I've been with him for years. And I know when he's got that sort of little grin, I got a secret and I've got something up my sleeve. And I thought yesterday he really had somebody. Today I was less sure. So we're going to see who this unbelievable, incredible Gretzky-level, unbelievable performer that he's come up with is going to be. But he better come up with something good. Otherwise, it's going to be a big letdown. And even if he does come up with a big name, what are they actually going to do? That's the real question.
Isn't he prolonging the problem? I'm a big advocate of the Band-Aid theory, right? You rip it off quickly, it hurts once. But here, he seems to be ripping it off very slowly.
On purpose.
But why didn't he just come out and name the person?
He needs a little bit of time for his election. Look, there's a new federal electoral map coming into force. And as soon as it's adopted, he has 7 months under the old map. So the new map includes a bunch of new ridings in Alberta. Those are all going to go conservative. Trudeau is not going to be a big fan of this new map. And it's just now, it's already, the ink is drying on the thing. So then the 7-month clock starts. So Trudeau and his crew are trying to get as much debris as they can off off the runway so that they can take off and have a campaign. Well, this whole mess involving Chinese intervention, Trudeau started it when he was in Bali, Indonesia, and he wagged his finger at the president of China and said, well, his staff was so happy to spin that he was really giving him a hard time and gave him what for. Then when he got back to Canada, there's people saying, well, what was that about? What is this interference? He goes, I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, you're the one who just boasted that that's what you were giving him heck for in Indonesia. So Trudeau's been trying to do this two-step, boasting about how tough he is with the Chinese president, then coming back and somebody said to him, boss, there's stuff in there that's really not good for the Liberals. And Bob Fife, one of the key journalists who's been following this thing with all the CSIS reports, he told our friend and colleague last week, exactly a week ago, he told Aaron, he said, look, the reason the Liberals are stalling is there's stuff in there that's bad for Trudeau and bad for the Liberals. And I have a feeling that that's probably the case.
All right, moving on. We're talking about the same stories because they just won't go away. Let's talk about the SAAQ. Now, Geneviève Guilbeault, Transport Minister, rushing back from Paris. You saw the fluff piece in La Presse this morning, front page, nice picture of her taking the Paris metro.
Yeah.
And so this couldn't have been planned 2-3 days ago. So what's going on?
Look, one thing that I think you and I can agree on is François Legault has probably the best communications team that anybody has had in Quebec politics going all the way back to Robert Bourassa's time.
I think I have to agree with you on that. Yeah.
They're just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Okay. They're great. And they're looking at this mess and they're saying, okay, it's not going to change anything because she's not going to be the 151st person they add onto the payroll at the SAAQ to try to get this thing fixed. But they said the image is just awful. We've got our minister. She's visiting Sweden. This thing is falling apart. It's on her watch. It's her ministry. You got to get her back on the plane. So I can tell you that everything should have been fixed at about 4:10 this afternoon, approximately an hour ago, because that was the hour that her plane was landing. And she's back. Everything should be fixed by now. And by the way, as one of my friends said, well, I don't know if she's got her union card, but if she does manage to get the things fixed with regard to the computer system, maybe she can start fixing all the broken lights on Quebec's autoroutes, because that's also her responsibility.
Exactly. And it's funny because I was watching you without the sound. You were on TVA just a few moments ago, and I got this news flash from TVA saying that a key civil servant in this file is on vacation, getting some raise in some exotic location.
Punta Cana, to be precise. Isn't that the beauty of social media? Because, of course, you get spotted by somebody who knows that he's got this big job at the SAAQ. The guy's got his feet in the sand on a beach down south in the middle of the biggest crisis. He's the guy in charge of communications, apparently, for the SAAQ. So, ouch. So they brought the poor minister back. I have a feeling this guy might not be having his rum tonight. I think he might be on a plane back,
because the contrast is fascinating. The minister's back, but not the civil servant, who's like a key player in this whole controversy. So I'll let you go on this, Tom. Yesterday, you didn't feel that this was going to hurt Legault. Do you still think the same way today?
Oh, Legault is Teflon covered with olive oil. I mean, nothing sticks to the guy. But at some point, what happens is when it actually hurts enough individuals, you can talk about the health system until the cows come home. But if you've got a family member who's just not able to get an operation for something dire and they have to be taken care of it, it's just not happening, then you realize just how broken the health system is. And you can't be spun away from it. So I think that this one, I mean, there are so many people. Look, talk to anybody who owns a car dealership. They can't sell cars because they can't get their papers done. And so think of the average person who can't get their driver's license, or the person who gets pulled over by the cops and they say, well, we don't care that you tell us you paid it. Everybody tries to tell us that. No, I paid it. Here's the receipt. Sorry, you're losing. We're going to tow your car. So a lot of this has been going on. It was an absolute well-known disaster before it happened. They told them, don't do it. They said, no, we'll shut everything down for 3 weeks and then it'll be fine. It's turned into a complete disaster. And it's not as if the expertise doesn't exist, David. I mean, you can never imagine a bank saying, well, we'll shut down the bank for 3 weeks and then we'll be able to use our bank cards again. Come on.